Finally, we're so glad you joined us for another episode of Muse on the Mic. Quick introduction before we get into this episode's topic. We are body rub parlor owners in Toronto, meaning a spicy, happy ending massage parlor. Been in business for 14 and a half years, and now we have a podcast to talk about what life is like behind the scenes. And today we've got a really great episode again. It's a repeated topic, and I'm super excited. Riley, what are we doing today?
We are jumping into our second Q&A episode. There's some really hot topics here. So we're going to do a YouTube for you guys here and join us on Patreon because there are some spicier questions over there that we're going to answer. And thank you so much to everyone that submitted all of their questions. We love answering them for you guys.
Yay! I think we got some awesome entries, lots of participation, and across a bunch of platforms, which is always like different perspectives. And I find that super fun. So I'm going to start off with the first one. You ready?
Okay.
Okay. So this one actually came in, I think last night or this morning, and I liked it. So I threw it at the top of the list. And it says, question, are you planning anything to take Muse to the next level of making short films on some famous categories like interracial, slave slash mistress, cuckolding, and then of course the regular scenes. So this one kind of, I was like, that's not a question I ever expected because I feel like I want to chop it into two parts. So, are we planning on taking anything with Muse to the next level?
Yes,
Big,
sir.
giant capital letter yes, right? Exclamation marks underlined 6 times. Absolutely. We have some really innovative and kind of cutting edge things in the pipeline that are in development now that um, will not be here for a while. This is a big project. It's going to take a lot of work. But yes, we have a big next level thing coming. Um, Unfortunately, though, it has nothing to do with short films or any kind of thing that would invade on anyone's privacy, right? Obviously, clients need full privacy, and our staff expect full, explicit privacy as well. So, no to the short films. We're definitely not jumping into the porn, you know, manufacturing environment or industry. We're not about to get into like production and become, executive producers of Muse films, but oh, that has a ring. Anyway, so it's a yes and no. Yes, some next level things in the pipeline. No to the short films. However, if any of these categories you listed or similar categories or other categories that you would like to enjoy at Muse, I can absolutely recommend a few girls that would be amazing at role playing some of these. Some of them jump like as soon as I read them, names were popping in my head. So I was like, you know who you should see? You know who you should see? If you ever need a recommendation, hit us up in our spa accounts for the DMs, not in the podcast. We separate the two businesses. But I thought that was a cool question because it was kind of different. Like,
I do
what?
too. And I think that the part of the question, do we plan to take Muse to the next level, which we said absolutely, is really like provoked by the pod. And I credit like this journey to that because I think it's really reinvigorated us and kind of made us look back at the journey and the things we used to do, that it's sparked something. So I'm thankful to Muse on the mic for this one because we have some
I
big prayers.
100% agree. It's sentimental in a way. It's cathartic in a way. Like there's a therapeutic aspect to it. A few people have asked, like, how are you guys feeling about this? And I've said the same kind of thing. It's reminders of old ideas. It's sparking new ideas. It's bringing that like really green enthusiasm of like not being tainted by all the drama yet and just having the balls to be creative. And I feel like this is something we've needed for a while, but who the hell would have predicted it would have come this way? Not in a million years. But I'm so excited that we're here, especially in terms of like where we are brainstorming, where we are in like the things that are actually coming into fruition now, and like the possibilities ahead. I think it's been the most thrilling entrepreneurial journey we've been on since we started the business of Muse. I love every minute of it, and I get to spend time with you more often, which my little heart loves you.
No. Yeah, I think the pod has definitely like brought our hustle back.
It's so good. It's so exciting. So I love rando questions like this that are kind of off the beaten path because one idea sparks another idea, sparks two others, and that might be where the thing is. So never a bad idea, never a bad question, and it gets to discussion. So thank you for that entry. Let's jump to the next one.
Um, I'm not surprised this question came up after our recent episode, but this is to you, Emily.
Um,
What muses have read your training manual? I'd like to book all of them and see which ones have studied the best.
So I don't know, I don't recall if I actually mentioned particularly in the mileage and manual episode, which you have to find on our Patreon because that's too softy for YouTube. Um, the manual came out of a punishment actually for a very misbehaved staff member. And that sounds so over the top to say out loud. Sounds awfully corporate and awfully disciplinary, but it was really to that point. With frustration, without wanting to, like, she was a great girl, didn't want to fire her, just really wanted to rein her energy in and focus and channel her skills. So she originally was the only person that had not just read every lesson, but submitted all the homework that's attached to it too. And yes, there's homework. If you've been following along, y'all know I was raised by an educator, a teacher, a principal. There's homework with everything. So I gave the girl homework, but it was constructive homework on purpose, right? Um, of some of our longer term staff, I know that they have read years ago, at least a few chapters, possibly several. Nobody has read all of them except me, Riley. I don't even think you've read all of them. I think there's a couple that you've missed. Homework, by the way.
I've got it
Expect a
here.
book report. I want a full book report. Double spaced, at least 10 pages. Thank you. On my desk by Friday.
Yes, Miss Riley. Or Emily, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
Emily. I love it. Call me that again. It's hot. Um, I don't think there's anyone that's actually read all of it or like studied the manual. And I had just kind of dug it out of storage since putting it away mid-pandemic. I'd moved, so I packed up a bunch of shit. Um, but I definitely know that there are many, many staff that have gotten multiples of those lessons through conversation, through initial training, through in-person discussion, through large staff meetings. We just had a really great one a couple of days ago, and we dive into those kind of topics. And I don't know if other rub and tugs have staff meetings. We do. I don't know if they do training seminars or like situations where owners come in or whoever's the teacher comes in and sets time aside to teach advanced skill set, to answer questions, to kind of refine the what ifs on different unique scenarios that you run into with a customer. What do I do in this circumstance? Or what do I do if this feels unsafe? Or what do I do if this is going really well? Like what do I do? So it's definitely always in my mind. I mean, that's where the manual came from anyway. I know my shit inside out and backwards. But it hasn't been something where we've taken them through like Muse Academy, where they go lesson by lesson by lesson. It's definitely something we're working on. Obviously, plagiarism, copyright, theft, all concerns of mine. I'm trying to figure out the best way to deliver either the manual or a video format, an audio format, some format of me being able to provide it at any given time without me physically having to be there in like a moment's notice. But those, obviously, from our experiences in the past, the attempted multiple thefts of the manual or multiple attempts at theft of the manual, that I'm concerned. But I will say, actually, Riley, I didn't mention this to you the other day. I did mention it to our editor who's listening in right now. I was watching Suits the other day, and on one episode, there was this thing about the stock market. And when they get tip sheets from the people that predict which way stocks are going to go, they print them on red paper because if you photocopy red paper, it comes out all black. And I was like,
Really?
I need that, but digital for the manual so that I would never
Okay.
have to worry about being copied or sent around or you can't record a phone call. There's definitely certain apps like I'm not on many dating apps, so I know some of them you can't screenshot
Okay.
or screenshot private messages and things like that. So there's got to be some way I can lock it down. I just don't
It's
have the
like
tech knowledge
it needs to be
yet.
like a combination of I know Snapchat, the messages expire, but you
Yeah,
also need to not be able to screen record or
screen
screenshot.
recording.
So like a
Yeah,
combination of those two.
something in there. But the red
Okay.
paper jumped out to me, and I was like,
That's
"Ooh,
really
I need
cool.
that." But
Yeah.
digital, but that exact thing. So there isn't any, but if this particular client wants to message and DM us and ask, who knows all of the subject matter in that manual really, really well, I definitely could, we both could make awesome recommendations on who has all of those particular skills. And I'd say there's a good over a handful of girls that definitely have a well-versed range of talents. They vary in their personalities and their talents. And like, there are areas of like strengths and expertise, but they definitely have the whole package and have kind of grasped the whole concept of the business, of their role, and how to profit the most, which is making clients the most happy, right? So there's lots. You just gotta dig in or send a DM. We'll answer. Yeah. All right. Next question. What is one of, or some of, I should say, the hardest parts of working at Muse? And this specifically says for owners, for staff, and or for attendants, I should say, and managers. And I guess from your answer, I'd love to know how those vary too, because that's a
Um,
fascinating question.
I wish we had more time that we could have really tapped into some of the muses or managers, but from my perspective, and I think you probably share, I think it's a bit of a struggle and a privilege that we get to watch these younger women, and it's a struggle. Like they're going through a lot of stuff, and in the sense of a privilege, we're here and we're able to guide them and train them, and you know be kind of that older sister or motherly figure in some cases. But it's
Hmm.
still, like a mother, hard to watch your child go through things, right? And we
Yeah.
can't help every situation. We certainly can't fix everything. So I think it's kind of, bittersweet, but we're in a position with all these impressionable, hungry, driven young women that we're in a position to guide them. And sometimes it doesn't always work. And I find that really hard.
It's true. It definitely taps into maternal instincts that way. And the whole like older, wiser vibe, right? If we knew then what I knew
Mhm.
now, and watching younger generations make the same mistakes and. But I think we create an open enough environment that they do come talk to us about those kind of things. They do take our guidance to heart. Some is gospel truth, some is just a wise, person to bounce things off of. And I think we're lucky that we got, like you said, a privilege to witness that, because there's heartache, there's joy, there's successes, there's failures, there's all of it. And we get to all kind of be there for each other. But I think they're also grateful to have us. It came up a bit in our recent staff meeting, in a suggestion box, that they're very happy to have us to lean on, to come to. We're a bit protective at times. We push them a little bit too much at times when it's needed, which is, what a parent or coach should do anyway. We try to set them up for the most success that we can and really get to know their personalities a little bit, so that everything is nuanced enough so that they feel supported. And you're right, it's such a privilege because they're all so beautiful and I just want to see them be happy.
Well, I guess I really didn't answer that question. His question was, "What's the biggest struggle?" But like I
Hmm.
said, I think it's a bit of both.
It definitely is. I think the job as the attendants, there are definitely hard days, right? There are days where it's mentally hard to digest. There are days when you're not in the mood. There are days, we talked on another episode about when they get a new boyfriend and start falling in love or some exciting thing. They want to start traveling. Then they realize 3 months later how much that affects their money because the income wasn't coming in, and all these little lessons while they go through. I think a hard day or a bad day in a massage parlor is a really bad day, and that can throw some girls off for a really long time. Anything that's sort of, I mean, we're so blessed to have such awesome clients that it's very rare and few and far between that we have anyone who's overly aggressive, who is a problem customer. But a problem session like that can ruin not just a good day, a good week, a good month, a good girl. We've definitely had girls that have left after a bad experience, and I think we minimize that as much as we can. I mean, I'd love to get input from the girls themselves. Maybe we can do that for a further episode. And even more so from the managers. I feel like they might have really fascinating answers to this question. But it's always a juggle for them too, keeping, retention of clients, making sure everyone's kind of accounted for where they are, especially on a busy day where it's kind of chaotic and just loud and high volume and like high traffic and all those kind of things, keeping some girls focused and other girls kind of rein them in a little bit, boost them up a little bit. Like there's so much juggling of personalities that I'm sure that's a challenge too. And I know our managers care so much about the girls that if anyone ever has a bad day, a slow day, they take it on as their personal, like we failed you today, but like I didn't produce enough for you today.
Yeah.
Even though it's up to each girl to maintain her own clientele, I like that the managers are equally invested in seeing them succeed. And that's not always easy to do. As for us, it's hard to be Emily and Riley every single day. I would say of all the struggles, that would encompass it for me anyway. Being Emily and Riley has many, many forms and comes through all the good, the bad, and the ugly. And just like everyone else, we're not always in the mood. Sometimes it'd be nice to take off that hat, but we'd lose all our other privileges if we did that. So you got to trade it off and just accept that's the life we chose. But during the pandemic, it was nice to go like a month with no one calling me Emily. I was like, wow.
You know what though? I realized how slow a social life I had through the pandemic because no one from work, I mean, we have like, at any given time, 35 to 45 staff, management,
Mhm.
we're speaking constantly. My phone is a busy place. And to be like, is it working? But
Is
there
this
was just
ring
no
on?
one
Yeah.
talking to me. I was like, unless my mother or my two friends call me, like, it's a quiet place. So it's a blessing in disguise, right?
It's so true. I remember, I think it was like second lockdown. I I I must have had too much to drink that day too. I remember giving you shit a little bit, being like, I don't talk to you enough anymore. I hate this pandemic because I'm used to talking to you 9,000 times a
Yeah.
day. And then 4 days could go, we had literally no reason to speak
And there's
other than
nothing to
good
speak
morning.
about.
It was
The news,
hilarious.
the toilet
Because there
paper.
exactly. And because there was no social life included on that, there was no regular, like, our personal lives to talk about. There was nothing to talk about. And I hated it. I hated every minute of it. I was like, I do not approve.
I feel like we
That
went on a
part
bit of a
sucks.
tangent there, but
It's okay. I think
we
it's
got into
part
the
of what
pandemic and
it makes
um
our life interesting.
for you, this is a good
Mm.
question. How does going to Muse usually work for a first timer? A first timer with no previous intimate experiences.
Ooh, that's a good one. Um, I was very young when I lost my virginity and dove into the carnal activities. Um, I don't know how. I feel like in some respects it could almost be easier with a professional, with a sex worker, because they're so skilled that it would take away that teenage kind of awkwardness that we all encounter when we do things, in our experimental high school, college kind of years. I mean, what do we know at that age, right? Nothing. We're just bumping like bumper cars through life trying to figure out things. So, I mean, it's true, right? You're just bumping into the wrong people and all kinds of shit. Um, and with a professional, I think it could be really intimate. It could be really, mm, I, I don't know what the word is I'm looking for. I'm feeling like it's in this really sexy scene, kind of like it's encompassed in like a safe space, a space specifically designed for that, from the candlelight to her to just the initial massage to kind of ease you in. I think everything in that bubble that the room, the massage room is perfectly set up for something like that. It could be gentle, it could be to his comfort. There's communication, nobody's hearing you, there's privacy, there's all the reasons why you could speak up if you're nervous, say stop if you want to stop. Like I feel like it's probably more giving an environment in terms of flexibility than perhaps with a civilian where there might be an expectation. I mean,
Well,
I'm in my 40s. I have an expectation about what I want my intimate experiences to be like, right? And I would hate for a first time to be disappointing. I think it could be a really cool way to kind of step in the door. I don't know. I feel kind of excited
yeah,
for him.
I do too.
What do
And
you
I
think
think
about
it's
that?
a interesting environment because I think it takes the pressure off. He's not out, he doesn't
Yeah.
need any game, so to speak, right? He's walking in for a paid service. So it alleviates that from him. I
Good
think what
point.
you mentioned, and we've mentioned in previous episodes, communication really is key. And if you're new to this world that may not feel comfortable, but I
Hmm.
assure you, if you're listening, communicate, because as wild as our muses can be, and perhaps he's looking for that, he can just lay back and take, the Sasha experience, which can
Right.
be super erotic, and, ask for suggestions, email us. We can
Mhm.
really guide you with who to, set you up with as your first experience based on what you're looking for. So I think he
Yeah,
has the
for
upper
sure.
hand of going somewhere where the pressure's off, where he can communicate what his interests are. And maybe he
Mm.
doesn't have to perform at all if he doesn't want to. He can
Yeah.
just, like you said, lay back and enjoy the ride.
Oh, that just sounds like fun. Like as you're speaking, I'm like, can I do that? Like, sign me up. That just sounds so sultry and like special. I think it would be an awesome thing for someone who's,
Yeah.
brand new to anything that's intimate.
Yeah.
I like that one. That was a cool one. That's a bit of a
I hope
thinker.
he's listening.
I hope so too. I mean, I would hate for people to submit questions and not answer. Okay. The next question. Is there a way for us to know which receptionist or manager, they're managers with us, are on shift? Like, do they have a posted schedule? Right.
No. Simple answer is no, they do not. They
That
do
was
have a
easy.
schedule, but it's not posted to the public. Um, you could always call into the spa. I don't think it's a set schedule that, specific managers work exclusively certain days, although that happens from time to time. So I think if you're really looking to cross paths with your favorite, it's just best to call that week. Because even with a schedule, sometimes they switch shifts or things change around.
Sure.
But what a good testament to the manager if you're wanting to come in specifically
Right?
for a shift, right?
I love that. I swear they
Mhm.
have regulars too, in the
They
sense
do.
that some of us love to see their faces when they first walk in the door. It's so
Yeah.
sweet. I love it. And I don't blame them. I mean, we feel the same way, right? They're like a joy to see when we walk in with the best hugs. Not that the other girls don't give good hugs, but the managers like leap full joy at us. It's so cute.
Especially you.
Kudos.
You get more hugs than
Yeah.
anyone.
Well, I think they enjoy the titty squish when we can have a nice big hug. I know Des gets right in there and wiggles around Nia too. It's
What are
just
you trying to
fun.
say?
It depends if they're busty. We kind of got to split half and half because if it's toe to toe, it just we're too far apart. It's so
It's so
funny.
funny.
But yeah, I think it's adorable that clients want to see the managers that specifically. And they bring them gifts. They know what their coffee order is and like all these things. So they got to know who's on desk. But a quick call, you can find out quickly, um, or DM and you ask us and we'll answer. And that's so cool. I love that. Their
Well,
favorite
I've got
manager.
one more on my list.
All right.
Would you ever do a live video to interact with clients? I think he
Like
means
here on the pod.
ownership, I believe.
Okay. I mean, we could. If we have a client that wants to be like kind of off camera, just his voice, maybe. Even if someone was comfortable being on camera, I think I'd prefer them to be off camera, just
Mhm.
for the sake of overemphasis of privacy. I feel the same about our girls. We talk about that when they show their faces, which some do, and that's their choice. I just think sometimes when you're young, you don't have the forethought to really contemplate what does this mean when I'm 45. Maybe we just sound old now, but I would hate for the same thing to happen to a customer where in hindsight it was a bad decision.
Right.
But I think with the right client, that could be a really interesting episode, a really
Mhm.
in-depth and kind of like intriguing conversation, and might even bring out insight that we've never even heard yet before because they write us and they see us
Mhm.
kind of quickly sometimes in person, but how often do we have like an in-depth one-on-one questionnaire back and forth with a customer? Not that often. So
Yeah,
it could be super interesting.
yeah, I agree.
If not for privacy, I'd line them up like a panel.
Mhm. Give us your input. We want to hear all the
I would take
things.
that to town, right? Yeah. So I've got one more here. No, two more actually. Okay, so for you, Riley, when do the owners visit? How do we know if you're there, if we want to see you? And do you even visit at all?
Yes. Yes, we do visit. And you know what? A lot of clients actually do message us and ask if we're going to be in and what kind of coffee we like. And you guys are so sweet. We're on no particular schedule. I'd like to say I'm more like weekday timing, but again, there's no, schedule to it. So just message us. But yeah, we're there every week. Sometimes it's once, sometimes it's twice or three times. It just depends on what's going on and what needs to be done. I mean, we're always working, so we're always by our phones. So message us anyways.
Always.
Um, Yeah, there's no schedule to it. Some days we go together and other days we ride solo.
Yeah, definitely. I think for both of us, our together days are our favorite because it usually
Hmm.
includes seeing our bestie, having some lunch, definitely a cocktail or two or three. Just depends on the day. I'm telling you, we need a wine sponsor because clearly that's our jam.
Yeah.
It comes up in like every episode. Like, why are we talking about alcohol again? I don't miss the early days of us being there every single day. That was just
Hmm.
draining. Who wants to be in a rub and tug every single day of their life, including Sundays? That's just sacrilege as far as I'm concerned. But I do miss some things that we used to always do together, like the supply shopping because of the hilarity and like just we're just fools when we're out in public. I do miss training girls together because it was hilarious. The girls found it hilarious to watch us demo stuff because we looked ridiculous. And like it's your bosses, it's weird, right? That'd be hilarious. I had rub and tug bosses, and I can't picture them even acting out the client position because my bosses were men. So, let alone any kind of role play beyond that, I think would just be hysterical as a staff member. But I find, I mean, you're definitely more there more often than I am, just through transport. I don't drive, guys, so it's easier for Riley to get there, especially in a jiffy or something last minute. But yeah, I think we love going to the spa for the most part, as long as it's not for a really heavy topic. We're usually happy to be there. It smells nice. It looks pretty. We get those awesome big hugs, have some laughs, take care of all responsibilities and call it George, get out the day. But like you said, our phones never stop. We are always working. We could be on the other side of the world and it's the same. It's the same every day, all
You know
day.
what's really cool too is I've noticed since we've started Muse on the Mic,
Mm,
normally I like go in the front door, check in with management, go right to my office. And I don't think a lot of people know who I am. They might just think maybe I'm the cleaner, some old woman walking through the spa.
please. They
Um,
think you're an
but
attendant because
now
you're
they're like,
hot.
hey, I've been listening to you Muse on the Mic. Like they know my face to see me. So I'm interacting a lot more with clients, which is really fun. And I love getting that feedback.
That's awesome. I love that. I've definitely had that a few times too. And you've told me that several times it's happened with you. You go at the right times. I seem to like sneak in and like skip like all the bodies, just
Yeah.
duck in the office or sneak into the lobby and chit chat there. But it's cool. I mean, we know the ones that we know, right? The clients
Yeah.
we recognize, they've been coming since forever. It's cool when it's a total stranger and like they could have been coming to the spa for 5 years and we just haven't
Yeah.
seen their face yet. And we were just mythical, like pokeroo type people
Yeah.
that you heard of but never saw. And now that they have a face to put to the name, I think it's so sweet and it makes them
It's really
feel
cool.
more connected, more comfortable. We've had several inquiries, DMs, messages, whether it's people overseas, whether it's people that are local, that are either anytime I'm in Toronto, I'm coming specifically because of how cool you guys are on the podcast, to,
Yeah.
I was nervous before and I saw you on the podcast and you answered all my questions. So now I'm coming in.
Mhm.
There's just so many reasons and kind of like the web is expanding in that
Mhm.
regard. And hearing that kind of feedback is just so sweet and so
Mhm.
beautiful. I feel like I mean, we got presents dropped off that were like, love the podcast. And I was like,
Yeah.
what? That's so cool.
I love presents.
We love presents. We love booze. We love presents. We love good feedback. I think it's easy to make us happy. So I'm going to throw one more at you before we wrap up and head over to Patreon. And that is the topic of this question. What is the reason why people should subscribe and join the Patreon for $9 a month?
Oh, um, there's many. The one that comes to the top of my mind because it's on our Q&A specifically for Patreon after this is you get more tea, you get more details, you get all the juice, guys. There's stuff we're just not going to talk about on YouTube, whether it's for privacy reasons or for censorship. So you got to get over there. And I think we're going to be on YouTube for some time to come, but I'd like to think at some point we will be exclusively on Patreon. So join us over there, and we hope we give you enough content to keep you happy, but we have so much to tell you guys, and best stuff is reserved for there.
100%. I mean, part of it is our own comfortability and our own elements of privacy that we still like, even though we're here face forward. And I think part of it is just the depth that some of the topics could get into. We always keep things privacy conscious. Names are always changed to protect the guilty and the innocent. But I think also like even some of our earlier episodes, we could dive deeper into a lot of those topics. We really just told the basis of the stories and not really the nitty gritty. And some of those details just have no business being on YouTube, regardless of what each platform's like terms of service are.
Mhm.
But also there's that, right? Like YouTube only allows you to talk about so much stuff. Patreon is much more flexible. So we can be more candid, we can be more open. We can find out about what Riley searches on Pornhub, which was in our last episode, where she kind of held back a little bit because she wants to talk about it on Patreon. So if we want to get into any of the spicy hot stuff, the dirty things, the things that would definitely get us banned on YouTube, you have to join the Patreon. And like it's the perfect place for it. It's the perfect place for y'all that want to hear it. So just head over to the Patreon. The link's in the description. Join and follow us on all social media so you can submit your questions on the next episode. And I think that wraps up the Q&A. What do you think, Riley?
I think so.
All right, guys. We'll see you on the next one.
Hi, guys.